Julian, it is a pleasure to sit down with you, founder, CEO of Emote, and well, we'll get to the company that you currently run. I actually want to start with where your entrepreneurial spirit came from. Way back when, what was your first sort of taste of entrepreneurship?
So I think it takes a while to like figure out that. I mean, how to spell that word. But
Tell me about it. I'm dyslexic, so it's like a disaster.
Yeah, no, but even to figure out like what the hell that word is. So I think if I think back to like when I was trying to create something with the skateboard company in high school or early high school at some point. I sold like 3 skateboards, and my parents' garage still has like 40 of them. And every year my dad's like, so like, you know, can we get rid of a couple? I'm like, no. Like,
so you're like safety net?
I don't actually have no.
Things go south.
This is my backup plan is like shitty skateboards. And then after that, I decided to try making motorcycle exhausts. And those are all, my parents' garage is heavily impacted by my early entrepreneurship. So
motorcycle exhausts.
Yeah.
Is that a big thing?
No, not at all. Sorry, I didn't finish.
In your community, or
No. It's not actually a big thing anywhere.
Are you a big biker?
So my like neighbor down the street and best friend at the time was like into dirt biking, and I was like, I bet we can make a better one than this. Like this is just like, and so I was really into like composites at the time. I was like, I bet we can make a better motorcycle exhaust. And turns out each of them just caught on fire. So they're much lighter though than the industry standard. But
when it completely goes into flames, that would make it lighter, probably.
Yeah, it was the lightest. It actually got lighter with use. Yeah.
And how were those skateboards?
Most of them broke in half. Yeah, no, actually, so it was great because like I sold them. And that was actually really, really exciting to sell them to people, and it was less exciting to have people like come back like after a month and have them like in pieces. And
how was your warranty?
I mean, I spent the money pretty quickly, so not great. Yeah.
That's good to keep in mind. Thanks for that.
It's way better with email. I promise. There's been strides since that.
Let's fast forward a little bit out of high school. I think you probably got all the errors out in entrepreneurship there. When was your next business, sort of around college? Or?
Yeah, so like, I mean, I was under the impression that I was going to go to medical school because a whole bunch of people in my family did that, and it seemed like the easy way to do things. And in college, I started. So actually, I'd been tutoring since I was like 14 or 15 years old, pretty consistently over the years. And I started working with a student that had schizophrenia in college, and I had no idea what I was doing, but realized that just by like continuously asking questions and exploring, there's a tremendous amount you can do to help somebody. And I started working with a lot of more students that dealt with learning differences, emotional disorders. Specifically, I was in San Diego, specifically ones that were receiving clinical treatment, and just through word of mouth, tutoring is like a word of mouth thing, and saw that this community was really, really underserved because no one knew. They had so many stakeholders that cared a tremendous amount about them, and no one really knew what each stakeholder was doing. And so despite having like 15 people, like therapists, occupational therapists, psychoanalysts, psychiatrists, like everyone there, what would often happen is that there'd be like one medication change in the student, and that would make them like sleepier, and they'd do poorly on a test, and then they'd fail a class. And this would all be attributed to their capacity, when it was really just attributed to the changes that were being made within their within all the stakeholders. And so really quickly realized that honest, like I started off by calling it tutoring, but just by being kind of a liaison and advocate for the student and bringing together and centralizing that information, we can make a big difference. And so then I went on to train other people to do that through a program. And this is on the side while doing like medical school kind of stuff. So
sounds. We're not going to jump too quickly into it, but it sounds a lot like what Emote has been doing. And
yeah, it's kind of weird, huh?
yeah, we'll get to that. So you're tutoring. You're going to med school.
I'm an undergrad. Hopefully, didn't make it there.
Okay. What happened?
Yeah, so I was in my undergrad doing this, and I was like, so I graduated undergrad eventually, it took a little longer, and I was working in a lab, and with the idea of going to like medical school, and I was really, first of all, I'm a really bad scientist, like horrible. I have no attention to detail. That's a whole other thing. Anyways, so.
You're giving me so much right now.
I know. I also have ADD, you can probably tell. But what ended up happening is that, so like while doing all this work with students on the side and working within a lab, I'm doing genetics research. I randomly caught my arm on fire, not in the lab, but at home cooking potatoes, and it was a grease fire. And naturally, the best way to handle like a pot of grease on fire is to try to carry it outside. And so I spilled like burning grease in my arm. A cool scar from it now. So that was painful, and it's actually not that bad right away because like all of the nerves just go into shock. It like, sucks after 4 days. So what happened is I had to go back to the hospital every day to get the wound cleaned, and I have a manual car, so like a stick shift, so I couldn't drive to the hospital, and all of the students that I had worked with and their parents and people that were in my community just set up like a schedule of bringing me food and taking me to the hospital. And it was essentially like this moment in my life when it wasn't like the most extreme happiness that I felt, but it was the most sincere and like pure happiness I felt. And made me realize, like, I was like, oh my God, like this is something that you should probably like chase and try to like achieve all the time, which is not possible, but like go for. And so I just kind of did an inventory of my life and identified like what are the things that I think are most likely to get me there. And medical school wasn't one of them, and education was.
Wow. So from there you dove into being a teacher, or what was next?
Yeah, I kind of like accidentally became a teacher. I feel like accidentally.
It's not like you took a wrong turn, or like I don't know, like tripped over something. And landed in a classroom.
Actually, that was more. So at that point, I made this decision. I'm like, like I need to, like. So I was like, I'm gonna grow this small little program that I've created around like people that I'm training. Essentially, training is like a big word for what I actually did. But and I was like, I'm gonna build this up. This is gonna be like a thing. Like, and then I was like, oh, I'm totally broke. And this is before like fundraising is something I knew about. And I was like, okay, well, like I'll go get a job. And I was like, I found this like tutoring center that had like consistent work in the evening. And I was like, I'm gonna build this thing during the day. And then I went to interview there, and they're like, hey, like we actually are a school during the day. Do you want to be a teacher? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And then that was really great. Worked with like a high risk population there, and then they're like, hey, like do you want to help open a school? And I was like yeah, sure, like why not? And so I moved up to San Francisco, and did that. I don't remember your question.
Yeah, that's fine. I forgot as well.
Like any of them.
Wasn't that interesting
right.
anyway.
No, so hopefully I answered it. Cheers.
Let's go to, how did your parents feel about, I mean, you had an amazing career ahead of you as a skateboard company owner.
Yeah.
An exhaust company owner. But then you actually found your path. You're set on med school. I imagine your parents would have been really excited.
Russian
about
Jewish
that.
families, like that's like gold. That's a win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then,
you're first generation, right? So
yes.
Your parents are both immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like? Sort of going towards med school and then completely shifting gears.
Well, I think med school is probably something that they wanted more than being a teacher. And then I think being a teacher is something they wanted more than being an entrepreneur. So I think my parents are incredibly supportive, and they're tremendously, they're the most loving and kind people I know. I mean, my friends that saw our relationship were like, you do realize that your parents will do anything for you. It is insane how much they love you. And so with that said, I think it was really difficult for them to understand, or it felt like it was difficult for them to understand. Mm-hmm. But they also wanted me to be happy. So I think that was messaged as well.
Yeah. So you're now an entrepreneur, like a real entrepreneur. No offense to the exhausts and the skateboards.
No, go on.
And you've got this incredible company, Emote. And truly, the results are, they hit you right here. And your story of the creation of it is so powerful. And I'm wondering if you can share with the community just a little bit of what Emote is all about.
Yeah.
To you.
Yeah, absolutely. So to me.
Yeah.
Or just what Emote is, kind of try to...
Let's start with what it is to you, and then you can share sort of generally, actually, practically.
Okay. No, I like that. So Emote, I think you pointed it out with what I was doing when I was 19. It's really just a continuation of everything I've done. I think that it's interesting, the idea of scaling. It's a word that we use here all the time. It's so intuitive, and I think that when you're doing something important to yourself, you just scaling is something that's inside of you. It's inherent to everything we do, because you do something and you're oh, that's cool, that made a difference. And with one student in a one-on-one environment, then you're okay, I can make more of a difference with more students, and then maybe if I teach teachers how to do this. And so I think Emote's really just the continuation of trying to scale, I think, compassion and education. At the end of the day, really the only difference between a teacher and a textbook is the connection that the teacher has with the student in that relationship. And so, I think Emote's just kind of the progression there.
I like that. So for the community that doesn't know Emote, practically, what is Emote? How does it work?
Yeah, so what we do is we bring together the observations of all the stakeholders in a student's life, but we focus those observations on things that happen, called micro observations, and that happen hour to hour, minute to minute, day to day, and it focuses on early indicators of how a student is doing. So a lot of time we'd call it emotions, or early behaviors, kind of noting a student's overwhelmed or anxious, and when you bring these data points, and when you bring these insights and these observations together, you're able to get this really amazing and authentic image of the student, an understanding of a student, an understanding that you don't have to wait 6 months to find out that a student has been depressed for weeks, or that a student is homeless, let's say, on Mondays and Tuesdays. So that's something that you can actually find out in the moment, in the day, when a student is having a difficult day, and really be able to deliver support in a much more authentic way, and also be able to identify root causes to things. You can start to find patterns, where bullying happens. So you can look, that's every day the student is anxious right before a recess and lunch, and sure as shit, they're in the bathroom.
Just to give a sense of how pervasive a problem this is, can you give us some numbers? Because it's easy to be oh, that's just that's probably one or two kids in the school or something like that once a month.
Yeah, and so I will give some numbers in a second, but I think what's really important is for everyone to like to think about the last time you wish somebody knew how you felt, and how that was a barrier to your success and a barrier to like your goals and outcomes. And like, I don't think there's a single person in this room. I mean, if I give you 5 minutes, you'll think of like 10. If I give you another 5 minutes, you'll think of another 10. So like, that's how pervasive it is that it's everywhere. I mean, if we want to go through some stats, we can go through some stats around like 70% of kids identify the fact that they are unhappy and lack the emotional support they need in schools. 300,000 kids are sent out of class for disciplinary referrals every day that are largely preventative and have early indicators. Those kids are 3 times as likely to ditch class, twice as likely to drop out. And then if we look at those numbers even further, we can see the disproportionality within those numbers when we look at different communities. But really, so those numbers put numbers to what's something that I think everyone feels.
Yeah. It's definitely what makes Emote so powerful and why so many people are signing up with you to change the scenario happening in every school. I'm gonna change gears a little bit just to close things out. As an entrepreneur, a lifelong entrepreneur, I imagine that you've faced some really trying times. And during trying times, people grab on to things that they hold on to dearly. And I'm wondering right now, when you have a trying time, what spirit animal you hold on to with all your might?
I know you're going at this.
Yeah, you do. Just like when it's really hard, where do you go?
Yeah, next.
Spirit
So what you're looking for is in a casual moment of conversation, I told Coleman the truth, which is that I very much identify with Macy Gray as my spirit animal. Which I'm very proud of.
What's your favorite Macy Gray song?
I couldn't pick a favorite song. That would be a disservice to Macy Gray.
Wow. And where do you connect with her the most? When do you listen to her the most? When do you listen to her the most? Or
I don't know where you're digging with this one. I mean, I kind of I'm going to connect with Macy Gray the most. So actually, in all honesty, I think she's a great going on drives. What the fuck am I doing with my life music?
Yeah.
And in the shower too.
Yeah. Of course. You made me work for it. Jesus. We're unfortunately out of time.
Yeah.
I think we all, in all seriousness, are blown away by the work you're doing, and
thank you.
Have felt a little Macy Gray, but also felt just the power of what it is to listen, pay attention, and have understanding and compassion. And you brought that into this community in such a big way for this program, and you show up in the exact way that your product shows up for the hundreds of thousands of kids who need it every day.
Thank you.
So cannot thank you enough for being real and sharing your time with us and Emote with us. So we're thrilled to see where it goes. Thank you, Julian.
Thank you.